Hello and welcome to this third first look session looking at Patient Grissell by John Phillip, written in the early 1560s. We are going from about scene 10 in the play. In fact, we're going to do the scene that we closed the last session with, partly because it's just narratively helpful, but also because it's short and sweet and fun, and it just gets our brains ticking over as we try and figure out what is going on in the life of and the mind of Patient Grissell, what on earth is going on in the mind of her husband, the Marquis, and more importantly, where on earth is the Countess of Pango? These and other questions may or may not be answered by the wonderful readers we have in the room today. So, quite a few parts that have just been redistributed, moved around, and added as bonus features to various readers. So, hopefully, I will get this right. Reading Patient Grissell today is.
Hi, I'm Eric, and patience is not my strongest virtue, definitely not.
Reading Diligence and Rumour is.
Liza Graham, enforced patience in London.
We're all trying to be patient. Reading Janikell today is.
Rachael, actor in New Jersey.
Janikell, the father of Grissell. Reading The Marquis today is.
Lynsey Beauchamp, actor in Norfolk, very much hoping that today's session will shed some sanity on the character of the Marquis.
Yes, we can hope. We can
I
hope.
can hope.
Reading Sobriety today is.
Helen Good and Wishing I Wasn't.
Reading Politic, Persuasion, Vulgus, Constancy, and a Daughter is.
I'm Alex Fairley, and I'm an actor in Perthshire in Scotland.
High probability that he's got slightly one too many parts who probably talk to themselves. So possibly there will be some movement on the reader of Brother, Son, and the last speaker, who is.
Alexandra, Wishing I Were Helen.
And reading a Midwife, Nurse, Reason, Patience, and the Countess of Pango is.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm feeling very typecast because I work in a hospital.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I am hopefully reading nothing apart from the odd occasional stage direction. So to get our juices flowing, we're going to read 3 scenes in quick succession to just sort of get a sense of where we are. We are going from scene 10, which is pretty much a time jump from the previous scene. We've just left the Countess of Pango having been gained a child, and we are now going forward, presumably 9 or so months into the future, as Politic, who is a servant in the household of the Marquis, is off looking for a midwife. So scene 10, a sense of deja vu all over again if you watched last session. Scene 10, enter Politic Persuasion.
Ah, Sirrah, yonder is posting to every place. Some run one way and some run another. And I am sent also, this is a plain case. But by my halidom I wot not whether. Even so now I study and call to mind, and see if the occasion thou canst find. So lo, now I have it, I swear by St. Richard. The Marquis is in travail, God be her speed. And I am sent for Mother Appleyard, who is a midwife indeed. Such matters, you know, should not be slacked. Perchance if I tarry, my flesh may be hacked. Whoop, who the devil dwells here, can any man tell? Art thou a maid or a widow that tendeth this house? I think thou be sister to the vicar of hell. By my worship up I enter, thou shalt bear me a souse.
Enter the midwife.
What practisest thou foolish knave, canst thou tell?
Bones, I promise you I have got a livery coat. There's never a yard but's worth a flat groat. Come on, Sirrah, we'll part stakes and that by and by, for I knave can thou, knave, hastily espy.
What lack you, Sirrah, till tell me with speed.
I am sent for you, mistress midwife, indeed. My lady Marquess desireth you to come to her presence, for of your age she standeth in great need.
I will go with you with all diligence, for that lady's virtues do far exceed.
Come on, I beseech you, for we will go together. The clouds be clear, God send us fair weather.
God in this enterprise be our staff and stay, and send us in our business a most happy day.
And they exit scene 11. We have the Marquis. There will be the appearance of Diligence, and Politic may make an appearance as well.
O Lord, so my heart with pensiveness is afflicted to see how my lady's sorrows increase. All solace and joy from her is rejected. Of childbirth her pangs as yet do not cease, so that to see her tossed in such stormy woe, my heart is perplexed, all joy I forego. Well as one pensive, devoid of consolation, I will rest me here, some tidings to hear. I descry one of my servants, which with festination unto my presence doth approach and draw near. Welcome, my friend, what news hast thou brought?
Such, honourable lord, as to joy may elevate your thought. My lady of a beautiful man-child is delivered.
These tidings be joyful, and sorrows have bereaved. Take this, reward thy pain to recompense. To visit my spouse I will do my diligence, which thus long hath suffered sorrowful smart. But the little babe will much revive her heart.
And exit the Marquis.
My lord hath given me a liberal reward. His honour is now a very joyful man. To us, his servants, he giveth such regard that we be bent to please him as we can. The whole household are very joyful now, because our lady mistress is delivered of a man-child. And so is the whole country, I may say to you, all tristful sorrow from them is exiled.
And exit Diligence. There's no indication of how, but Politic Persuasion is now on stage.
Here, quoth you, marry cheer in black bowls, quaffing and carousing for all Christian souls. A christening, quoth you? Marry, there was a notable feast. 45 hogsheads of wine spent at the least, 50 dozen capons, and 3 times as many swans. Laugh, there was old sport to see the skulls lick the pans. But a murrain on it was my chance to feast to lees. But I crammed my belly full of cake bread and cheese, stuffed like a pudding bag, full up to the throat. See how fast the buttons fly out of my coat. Feed, yea, faith, I spared not. No, I lustily feed. Eat my meat, I can thank God, with him that bears a head. And as for carousing, I think I did my part. 17 gorns for my share, 6 pottles and a quart. Thus judge my friends whether I have fed well or no. I eat and drink nearly wherever I do go. Yeah, but I must hence, for the Marquis for me doth look. Nay, 'tis as I tell you by the cross of this book. Fare ye well, and adieu, I must hence a space. But after a while you shall see this gentleman's face.
And he goes out. Scene 12. Enter the nurse, bearing the child in her arms.
A joy to see how prettily this infant young can smile. The sight of this the parents' care and woe from hidden breast doth certainly exile. This to be certain true the gods do know, and I, poor nurse, am not a little glad to dandle this sweet soul my heart is fain. I wish for it of God long life may be had, that in salutias joyful joy may remain. To sing and to dance it I mind take pain, I careful and diligent for it will abide. To rise early and sleep late I will not disdain, to cherish and love it doth me betide.
And the nurse singeth.
Lullaby, baby, lullaby, baby, thy nurse will tend thee as duly as may be. Be still, my sweet sweeting, no longer do cry. Sing lullaby, baby, lullaby, baby. Let dolors be fleeting, I fancy thee I. To rock and to lull thee, I will not delay me. Lullaby, baby, lullaby, baby. Thy nurse will tend thee as duly as may be. What creature now living would hasten thy woe? Sing lullaby, boo, lullaby, lullaby, baby. See for thy relieving the time I bestow, to dance and to prance thee as prettily as may be. Lullaby, 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 the nurse will tend thee as duly as may be. The gods be thy shield and comfort in need. Sing lullaby, 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 baby. They give the good fortune and wealth for to speed, and this to desire, I will not delay me.
Enter Diligence, his sword drawn.
Gog's heart and his heel, where is the brat? Dispatch it quickly, nay, I'm flat. I must and I will dispatch it, by Saint Anne, and why not? Who should let me? No man. Good fortune, the nurse and the brat I espy. Without peradventure, I'll make as the child should die.
Sweet babe, be still and take thy quiet rest. Thy nurse still to lull thee doth give her consent. To rock thee asleep I mind to do my best. Hush, little baby, no longer do lament.
Hush, I will hush it, of this be thou bold. Thou shalt of thy charge be now set free. And think not but truth to thee I have told, the blood of the infant effused shall be. My lord hath given such commandment to me, then therefore see thou render it me without delay.
To shield the poor infant I will do what I may. Although the one be slain, yet this shall not die.
From thee, force perforce, I will have it, aye. Too weak art thou found with me for to strive.
Yet will I essay the victory to achieve. Though inferior I seem to thee in fortitude and strength, yet by words and plaints I may prevail at length. And therefore without delaying attend unto me, give heed to my tears, let my words pondered be. To slay this young infant is contrary to reason. Thy rage and fury vouch thou with pity to season. Who could commit murder, or slay an innocent, at any man's charge, and transgress God's commandment? The favour of my lord thou fortune to find, yet the righteous judge above have the vengeance assigned. I wish thee therefore diligently my words to scan, and know it is better to please God than any mortal man.
What tellest thou me that? I know it well enough, I. But if I kill it not, I myself shall die. Therefore better to slay than with the sword to be slain. Give me the brat, therefore. Thy plaints are spent in vain.
Alas, yet hear me. One word let me speak. Seem not to kill it, neither to... Alas, yet hear me. One word let me speak. Seem not to kill it, neither so thy fury wreak, that thereby you purchase then death and damnation. But hark, I will work, I, for the child's preservation. I will nourish it and bring it up as mine own, and that it liveth to my lord need not be known. Thus shalt thou please God, and the Marquis, I say, yield to my desire, I do thee heartily pray.
No, all this is vain. Thy words are but waste. I will take the child and murder it in haste.
Oh,
And goes out.
oh, cruel father, oh, most intolerable case! In the breast of this Marquis nature have no place. Neither canst thou before God thyself excuse that seemeth such tyranny to thy flesh to use. To murder thy children enlargeth my care. To persevere in sin thyself thou dost prepare. But woe to thee, woe, whom the beasts do excel, that in the deserts continually do dwell. The lioness her whelps doth earnestly tender, the bear to her young ones in love is not slender. But thou to thy own flesh art father unkind. To cry out against thee, poor nurse, I do mind. The venomous serpent, the crocodile most dire, to bring up her young doth have careful desire. The merciless tiger, devoid of all favour, to nourish her younglings doth earnestly labour. But thou, alas, disdainest thy flesh for to feed, thou rather delightest to make their hearts bleed. 2 children to death thou now hast condemned, but know that the Lord thou hast greatly offended. I mourn the poor Grissell, thy hap I lament, but thou in this case art marvellous patient. To court I will haste me to comfort thee all that may be, but to cry out on the Marquis I will not delay me.
And exit the nurse. Farewell, the official mourner, the character who is allowed to be let off the leash to really go for it in this play. We were talking yesterday. We were talking Abraham and Isaac, and here we have Well, welcome to Coventry. We're here for the pageant of the the shearmen and tailors. As we literally have singing over a baby, and then someone comes in to kill it. So it's very mystery play in parts here, and I'm finding that really interesting. 3 scenes, arguably perhaps 4 scenes in quick succession of the Grisel is pregnant. Bring in a midwife. We're worried about what's going to happen. It's a man-child. Politic has been to a party, and then the nurse is very happy to have the child, and then Diligence comes to do his diligent job of pretending to kill the child. Don't worry, the child is perfectly safe, he said.
Yeah, we never see Diligence being given the order this time, or Politic. Politic has a whole speech about food and doesn't talk about his intentions towards the child.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe he hasn't got orders. Maybe it's just simply this is a standing order, and nobody else actually knows that he's doing this. You know, it's bureaucracy for you. You know, he filled in Form 17B for the first child and forgot that you needed a rescinding order in F's Circular 412. You know, what can you do? Yeah, it's interesting that it's ringing changes. There's fascinating character work. I feel myself weirdly unmoved by the nature of the nurse's lamentations about the way they're written. They're I don't. Are they? I'm. You know, they're designed, assumably, on some level to do that. I loved the song. I thought the song was really lovely. But it's something about, because we had this yesterday, I was quite unmoved by the nurse's lamentations yesterday as well. I don't know if there's just something, because I know there's nothing at stake, partly. Maybe it's that. I know the child's fine.
Well, maybe if you saw it on stage with an actual, you know, prop infant, you might feel... it might be a little more visceral in its impact. It's one of those things that's very emotional, and when you only read the words, it's not necessarily going to come across.
Yeah, just on a textual sense, that's what I was going rather than anything else. Lynsey, then Alexandra.
I think it's also, it seems sort of very formal and very, what's the word I want, kind of choric, as opposed to a real person lamenting a real baby's murder. It's just seems to be there as a either as a device or as a to offer some time to enable the people who are off stage to change costumes and get back on again, or something like that, possibly.
Alexandra.
Yes, very similar point to Lynsey's. It feels very balanced in its structure. It's end stopped. It's rhyming couplets. It's an appeal to God from the third line onwards, as opposed to an appeal to the person's emotion or their better nature or anything like that. And I think for those 2 reasons, it might be that it's not striking us in the feels, because it's not aiming at the feels, it's aiming at righteousness in the face of God.
Yeah, I'm liking that. It's always the question, what is the play trying to do, as opposed to just my stupid expectations of what I think it should do. Eric.
I was going to say that the lines that don't rhyme are the ones that are right before contradictions, which is random but interesting, I think. Where you've got, like, though favour my lord thou fortune to find, yet, and then the next line disagrees with it. And also, well, we've already had the big shock of the first child being, well, we didn't know it was going to be saved, but, like, we thought it was going to be murdered. So this is kind of an anticlimax, but it's like, it's that thing of keeping your audience guessing whether it will actually be murdered or not. There's no stakes for this one. That's the problem.
Because we've been here before. So yeah. Any additional thoughts before we move on? Politic has been quite fun in his sort of wicked way. I quite like the idea he's just come out of the party. Everyone's happy about this baby coming into the world. and the delivering of a man-child. There is significance here. The first baby was a girl, and now we have a boy, and there is a significance that this society is placing on that. Eric.
Well, also, sorry, to go back to the nurse's stuff, she also mentions the tiger and the lion and the bear in the previous speech as well. So, yeah. It's kind of repetitive in that sense.
And I wanted to see more of the midwife.
I genuinely was feeling quite emotional reading that, especially the speech before the song. I thought it was actually, though it might have been very formulaic in some ways, it's a glorious eulogy to a small baby.
No, you're right. The speech before the song is lovely, isn't it? Because it's all about I'll look after this. I won't disdain the effort that this is going to cost to keep the child going. That bit. I absolutely right. I rescind my comments on the first sort of 10, 12 lines. Helen.
The first 10, 12 lines aren't 14ers. I hadn't noticed that. That makes all the difference, I know everybody says I'm wrong, but I think it's very difficult to be sincere in 14ers.
Maybe it's the rhyme.
The rhyming doesn't help, I think. But yes. But we have noted it, and I think we could do it to death. And maybe I'm being unfair, and I've started everyone on a hare that chasing a hare that isn't there. So let us move on to the next scene, which is quite a long one. So scene 13, and we have the return of Politic.
Sirrah, I have touched her, I trow. Politic persuasion hath given Grissel a blow. A blow, quoth you? Such a one as sorrow might increase, but by his bones her mourning doth cease. Yet she thinketh her little son is slain, but my policies deceive her, this is plain. For it is sent to Bullen Lagras, the truth is so, to the Marquis' sister, the Countess of Pango, who will nourish it, as it is well known, as she doth his daughter, which is kept as his own. But sith that neither of these attempts her patience can move, I am minded against her a new assault to prove, which shall exempt her from the top of fortunate prosperity, and plunge her deep in the floods of adversity.
Around about here, we infer the arrival of the Marquis and Grisel.
Behold, yonder they enter both together. Surely I mind to give her welcome hither. God save your honours. May I be bold with you, my lord, to have a word or twain? Truly, for your profit I would speak with you fain.
Say what you please, I am ready thee to hear.
Then I beseech you come apart, for it is secret, dear.
With all my heart, hear thee I will.
And in faith I will seek to pleasure you still. Hark, it is even so, you shall well espy. Hark again, this is the mean her patience to try.
Lord, this device I will straight put in your.
I warrant you her damage it shall procure. Now, shall ye see my purpose fadge? I trow we shall have some pastime anon, Mother Madge.
Madam, my dear and spoused mate, attend and give good heed to such words as from me thy lord at this time shall proceed. Thou seest our painful plight, our grief full well is shown, our children's loss to each of us apparently is known. Yet cannot death of infants dear appease the bloody mind of nobles all, nor staunch the rage of commons most unkind. But now their rage reverted is to quit me with disdain. They seek, God knows, to banish me from empiry and reign. And thou art root of all my grief, my anguish, and my care.
Am I the spring that vexeth thee, my loving lord declare? Hath wifely troth I failed thee? Hath in duty been neglect? Doth any wight that liveth now of these things me suspect? But if I be the cause that reaves thee of thy joy, if I be she, O noble lord, that worketh thine annoy, As my sweet babes at tyrant's hest have died on bloody knife, to swage the rage and win thee grace, spare not thy faithful wife. Let thousand gashes scorch this flesh, let them their rage display. Let thousand wounds by stroke of knives take Grissel's life away.
Body of me, see her gentle disposed mind. How many such wives may a man find, which seeing their husbands oppressed with woe, would willingly offer their lives to forego, to mitigate the husband's pain or ease his grief? Not one, I conjecture, I am so hard at relief.
My loving mate, thy life untouched in safeguard shall remain. Thy blood shall not effused be, but needs I must be plain, and eke express the whole effect why they frequent this spite. Their muttering voice, concealed long, is shown in open spite. They envy my estate, so fell doth fortune frown. Thou only art the blemisher of honour and renown. Thy poor degree impoverisheth my worthiness and fame. Thy poverty eclipseth much my dignity and name. Therefore, as poor thou wert, so poor thou shalt abide, and to thy needy father wend, these robes set clean aside. For I will wed another wife, which shall mine name advance. To top of fortune's haughty wheel, my fame she shall enhance. Her noble stock and years shall equal be to mine. She shall proceed and issue from some princely famous line. But as thou didst in naked plight from thy poor parent wend, so barely naked to him again I purpose thee to send. Thus shall my nobles joy, their hate full soon shall cease, and I their lord successively shall spend my days in peace.
Bones, quoth Joiner, who made God Almighty? These news will vex and grieve her spitefully, to be banished so suddenly from her husband's side, and he to marry another, clocking mistress bride, would move the patience of a good many wives. I dare say they had rather be rid of their lives.
Most humbly hear, my sovereign lord, thy listening ears prepare. Attentively give good regard to that I shall declare. When I in poor state did live, therewith I was content. I praised my God and bare the cross that he to me had sent. Like case when that to this state your mate he did elect, my low degree this choice of thine unfitly did suspect. I thought that twixt my vacant plight and needful indigence, thy rich estate and lordly rule, deserving reverence, might no comparison be made. And therefore, as unmeet, I dempt myself within thy roof to place or set my feet. Yet did thine honour, noble lord, elect me for thy mate, the greater ruth, the more my pain and most unhappy fate. First both my babes dismembered are, and the sword their flesh hath torn. Next causelessly to cruciate me, new troubles they adorn, which patiently I, woeful wife of women all forlorn, will bide and bear, laughing my foe, fond fortune all to scorn. But if this thy banishment and absence of thy wife entwixt the lordly sort and thee, end this conceived strife, I grant with willing mind from hence to take my passage, and rest me as I did tofore within my father's cottage.
O heart, now reeve and rend, now break thou clean in sunder the heavens above and lumining stars, that this attempt may wonder. All living wights that hear this fact will me reward with shame. No condign praise, but ill report shall thunder forth my fame. Shall I forego my wedded wife, whose wifely troth is such, that I, to do her husband good, her life thinketh not much? What though from simple stock her nature be derived, her virtues yield such equal doom that honours she achieved? And shall I then reject as abject from my sight my lady dear, whose virtues all my senses much delight? No, no, not so, pluck back thy feet, such acts exile thy thought. Let no such sin against thy love in any wise be wrought.
What, body and me? My lord, pluck up your heart, be frolic and joyful, set sorrows apart. Are you not ashamed to blubber and weep? It is time now to play the man, and not a simple sheep. Proceed forward, faint not, your purpose prosecute. Be not reputed a coward, the fact execute. Let your countenance be stern, like a gentleman, look big, else of this drift I'll not give a fig.
Following the motions of politic persuasion, against her stoutly I will make invasion.
Then do you well, I swear by St. Anne, I swear by mine honour, ye shall be dempt a man.
Attrite not me with fortune, dame, cease soon I do thee pray. I must and will defend myself, lest haply I decay. Come off, despoil thyself, cast off thy rich array. From princely state to father's house, all naked, take the way.
I will forthwith shall straight be done. Obedient I will be to do the things, my worthy lord, that you commanded me.
Whoop hoida now, St. Gillian bless ye. In faith pretty sweeting, these tidings deceases ye.
And I'll ask Alexandra to step in to be a maid here, please.
Alas, madam, it grieveth me this day to see.
Be not sorrowful at all, for this much pleaseth me, for by my departure my lord shall live in rest. His afflicted heart, with careful thoughts oppressed, shall find a salve of safeguard to cure his pain, which doubtless shall make poor Grisel fain. Therefore, dear damsel, thy lamentations cease, sith that my absence shall joys innumerable increase. The commons' rage to mildness shall be diverted, the nobility shall shun stubbornness, and become gentle-hearted. These consuming agonies which so much torment the mind of my single sufferings shall be sure redress to find.
Bones of a Tabor, with this fact she is pleased. She careth not so her lord's pains be eased. I have not seen her like, her patience doth exceed. I say no more, but God send us good speed. How many such be living at this day? Not one, I conjecture, for Grissel's decay. There be a number living that Grissel have to name, and yet very shrewish by natural disposition. Their manners assuredly far differ from the same. Let the married sort hereof make definition. For the woman oft times to choler the good man will provoke. Be well assured they must bear the greatest stroke.
Take here these robes and ornaments costly. Take here these things and jewels sumptuous. Take here the ring, wherewith we joined matrimony, which day was solemnized and to all men joyous. Bestow them where it shall please thee, my lord most bounteous, for that all that I ever received of thee I yield thee again, being contented in my former state to remain. Yet, most worthy lord, I do humbly desire one simple boon grant me for a recompense. The thing is of small value that I shall require, which I beg on my knees with honor and reverence.
Speak, Grisel, if thy boon be simple, I grant thy request. Arise incontinent, let it be forth expressed.
I thank your honor for your benevolence, beseeching God to shield thee from all inconvenience. On me some time thy wife take remorse, extend not against me the fullness of rigor's force, but plant pity in thy breast, be somewhat more favorable. Consider it were a great ignominy to thy state far honorable, to send me away naked to my father's cottage, and to me wretched, white 10 times more damage. For all creatures shall behold the secret corpse of mine, which sometimes were most amorous and pleasing to thine eye. Grant request. Grant therefore this request to me, woeful wight. Let pity and subdue and vanquish rancorous spite, a simple smock to hide and cover my nakedness, be it ever so simple. I beseech your goodness, which I crave to recompense my virginity, the which I brought, but carry not away with me. Let me not be made a laughingstock, I pray thee, but grant my request and take pity on me.
I grant thy desire, a smock thou shalt have, and be conveyed to thy father in like case.
Truly no other thing of thee I will crave. I praise God that in thy sight I have found grace, and sith this, as my dowry in age is ordained, most lovingly this scourge shall be entertained.
Come, Grisel, without longer delay, thou shalt to thy father this present day.
Most willingly on your lordship I will attend, being desirous to him for to win.
And they exit apart from politic persuasion.
Ah, sirrah, this gear is trimly handled by Saint Anne. How say you hath not policy now played the man? She shall home to her father, this is trim, but her sudden fall will trouble the heart of him. Fare ye well all, I will be packing. Tush, there wants a man where policy is lacking.
And exit policy never to be seen again. Yeah, so lots of questions that this raises. One on a very pragmatic level: how naked is Grisel? And how does one stage that particular scene? How did they stage it then, let alone how do we stage it now? Thoughts from the room about that and other issues in this thing. So once again, the idea has been planted with the Marquis that another test is needed, planted by Politic, and this time it's he's going to cast her out back to Daddy, and he's going to take another wife. So, Rachael.
On the first day, Janikell was saying about the Marquis that, calling him all these names and stuff because he didn't think that he wanted to marry his daughter at first. I feel like there's some echoes of that here, that some of Janikell's worries kind of come true, in that he's treating his daughter ill, and that he's taken something that he wanted and then just left, and that also maybe if people really are talking about the Marquis and he's afraid of losing his position, maybe it's because he's doing all this.
We're losing your sound, Rachael.
Ooh, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's clearer.
Okay. No, it's the Marquis. Maybe he's gonna lose. People are talking about him, and he's afraid he's gonna lose his position because of he's just doing all this stuff that's so criticizable, like killing his children, not once but twice.
Yes, Helen.
I must say, I got the impression that the Marquis was in absolutely no danger whatsoever from the populace, who had not only accepted Grissell, but had taken her to their hearts as being, because she was so virtuous, and that the whole thing was constructed as a series of tests. I didn't think there was anything behind it at all.
Liza.
I think, first of all, I think Helen is right about that. And on the question of how naked is Grissell, I would think she's probably wearing a shift, which was a linen underdress, usually white or natural colored. For a lady of high status, it would be white linen, and I think I'm right in saying that at this point it would have a neckline that was supposed to be held up by a boned bodice, or pair of bodies as they were known, possibly. I think, from Tudor portraiture, I'm pretty sure they did have boned pairs of bodies at this time. So once you had taken off that boned undergarment, your shift would not stay up unless you held it up. The neckline was pretty wide, I think. And a woman wearing only one layer of fabric was in her underwear anyway.
Yes, so she's asking for something to make her a smock to make her moderately decent above her undergarments.
Yes, a woman convicted of a crime would do penance in a shift.
Excellent. Lynsey.
So yes, I'm still having the same sort of issues with the Marquis in that...
We're all having the same issues with the Marquis.
He has this speech about, oh, shall I forgo my wedded wife? And oh my God, it's all my heart is breaking. And few lines from Politic, and he's like, following Politic's advice, I'm, going to do this. And I just think, the populace may not be, angry with him for marrying a poor woman. That may just be the device, but they should certainly be angry with him for being an absolutely crap ruler.
Yes, and so far, let's say we have no evidence that the populace have a problem with him. Whether that remains the state of play is something we shall find out as the play continues. Liza.
Yeah. I know I said in our first session that the trope of testing or trying someone's fidelity or someone's love crops up a lot in plays of this period. But usually that test doesn't happen over a period of years. And I do like, it gives the Marquis like a little bit of character, like about that much, that he starts to waver and say, and doubt that he's been right to psychologically torture his wife over what must have been a period of years.
Yes, the time scale of this play is confused, but the odd decade has passed here. And there may be more time to pass as well. So it's not like we've just gone from she's just given birth to the boy. There's a year span before that for the previous scenes. Years are passing by at a rate of knots here.
So yeah, usually the fidelity test is done by a man to a woman. And when the Marquis wavers, then Politic has that speech saying, well, you should be a man, implying that if he doesn't want to psychologically torture his wife, he's less than a man.
Alexandra, then Eric.
That's the point. I wonder whether there's what we're supposed to get out of this is not that he's somehow right to do it or that it's acceptable, but rather that is a very stupid argument that he falls for again and again, and that you shouldn't, on politic persuasion, on the advice of your peers, be an awful husband. Maybe it's actually intended, for I'm being highly optimistic here. Maybe it's actually intended for us to be sympathetic to him in a different way, rather than sympathetic in the sense that we think he's right, but sympathetic to his plight if we take seriously the "oh heart now reave and rend" kind of suffering that he then has to get slapped back together by Politic, who says, "Are you not ashamed to blubber and weep?" So if he's hurting himself terribly in doing this thing as well as hurting her, maybe there's some good in that. I don't know.
Okay, I think at that I'll go to Eric and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I think the reason, because people had mentioned that the smock speech really works really well. And I think it's, I was going to try and see if it was the rhyming, but I think it's actually mostly because it's broken up sentences. It's kind of like the first bit, "take here these robes" and so on. That bit has it breaks the rhyme in one place. And then it kind of like it breaks the rhyme scheme, and then suddenly it returns to this more intense rhyme scheme of couplets. And then suddenly, like at the end, it's got 4 rhyming couplets. Or a quatrain. I don't know, is that what you call it? Terminology. So it's like sort of very emphatic, I guess, sort of where it goes, "which I crave to recompense my virginity brought with me, I pray thee, take pity on me." It's like very sort of intense emotionally, I guess.
And this is a test where there is something at stake, in the sense that this is a shaming act that is being done on Grisel here to walk naked, or effectively naked, away now. There's really that sense of something additionally at stake here that maybe I was missing unfairly last time, or in the last the scene with the nurse. Let us move on to scene 14, where we encounter various interesting people. We have the entrance of Rumour. Enter Rumour, blowing and puffing.
Whew! What thing soever is attempted, or through the world frequented, from rumour cannot concealed be, for I spread it through the whole country. And now have I occasion my trump to blow, and expressly publish poor Grissell's woe. From the top of honour the Marquis will her exile, for fortune is fickle, although she do smile. Her change is unstable, full of mutability. Her wheel is full gliding, and of no certainty. Her fresh visage full soon changeth cheer, as now by Lady Grissell doth plainly appear. For she is now thrown from the top of prosperity, and with old Janikell must suffer painful poverty. Which fact swiftly through Salutia I will blow, that all living creatures his cruelty may know.
And enter Vulgus the common people.
What tumult through our Salutia is spread! A wonderful rumour among the commons is risen of late. A sudden report throughout the town is fled, which forces us all to bewail Grissell's state. Against her causeless is by him kindled much debate, for he will exile from him this lady of excellence, and constrain her now to live in needful indigence. Which thing to think on, so pinch these our hearts, that for her sake we are fain tears to distill. She often relieved our penury and smarts, and therefore for her now of forced lament I will. It is even so this chance happeneth most ill. Yonder she entereth, alas, and well away. Our hearts are made sorrowful to see this day.
O lady, we mourn and shed tears this day to behold.
Our minds are meastful, piteous plaints we unfold.
Comfort yourselves, my lords, set heaviness apart, for patience to suffer this hath armed my heart. This cross is not contempt, but willingly embraced. On God my trust and confidence is placed. Therefore mourn no more, be neither sorrowful nor sad, but I rejoice in God, my heart is full glad.
Oh, Grissell, Grissell, our hearts are full of heaviness. Would God we had wherewith to cover thy nakedness. Then should we add remedy to this thy grief, thou surely at our hands shouldst find some relief. But woe be to this Marquis, which hath heaped thy pain on his cruelty. We have just cause to complain. Woe be to this Marquis, yea, cursed be his days, and this shall be my prayer, now and always.
And exit the common people.
Lo, madam, we approach your father's house at this season.
Friends in place I have been very geazen, but now my father's presence I shall continually behold, whose company to me is more dear than gold.
What clamorous noise is this that I hear? That all be not well, I greatly fear. Alas, my daughter Grissell, all naked I see, which sight to discern much grieveth me. Well, I will haste to clothe her with all convenient speed, with this ragged coat, which I have kept 12 years indeed.
Behold, Father Janikell, my lord, have sent you a present.
For as she came naked, so naked he hath her sent.
Thank my lord of his gentleness and courtesy. Tell his honour my daughter is right welcome to me.
We are but the messenger of his honourable mind. Now that our function is ended, we commit thee to God, O Grissell most kind. To go homeward we are intended.
God in your going be your aid and guide. Commend me to your lord with humble salutation. Tell him I will pray for him daytime and tide. I beseech God be his preservation.
Grissell, all that you have said shall performed be. Father Janikell, our message is ended, and God be with ye.
Exit reason and sobriety, leaving Janikell and Grissell alone.
Fare you well. God be your defender. For your lord's courtesy, thanks to you I render. O my child and dearly beloved, to pour forth poison of tears, for thee I am moved. O heart break in pieces, now sorrow is revived, to see the dignity thus clean deprived. Receive thine own coat, and cover thy nakedness, which I have kept as a treasure is, with diligentness. Ever doubting that this Marquis would displeased be with thy low estate, and and indigent poverty. What father could choose but on fortune complain, which such hard fate for thee doth ordain? O froward fortune, altogether deceivable, full of garish flattery, altogether viable. The changes of thy haughty wheel to Luna I may compare. Whoso trusteth thee hath often cause of care. From prosperity to adversity the simple thou dost throw. Fie on the fortune, which art cause of my woe.
O Father, be joyful, and praise God for my fall, for he that gave prosperity can send adversity, and at his prescript pleasure he can swage the thrall of such as be afflicted with needful poverty. Embrace patience, let go rash temerity. Blame not fortune for my overthrow, it was the will of God that it should be so. And what creature living can withstand his providence that his crosses to try as he doth his elect? Therefore, good Father, arm yourself with patience, let not murmuration your heart infect. But bless me, Jehovah, with which this doth direct, then he will protect us from danger and harm. Therefore, with patience ourselves let us arm.
Daughter, I praise God as duty doth me bind, but yet this fall of thine will nay part from my mind. Oh, how is my heart perplexed with woe! Not one but God my anguish doth know.
Good Father, I beseech you, set mourning aside. Cast your care on God, for us will provide. These hands shun idleness, the nurse of wickedness. My rock and distaff are instruments doubtless, with which, as I have in times past, so now indeed will I use and toil our bodies to feed.
And enter Patience and Constancy.
I represent a virtue called patience, very meet and needful for such as suffer affliction. I comfort the mind tossed with inconvenience, and instruct them humbly to suffer punishing. I teach them patiently to endure correction, so that in trouble I am a safe preservation, meet for all those that bide vexation.
Like case I, Constancy, am of like excellence. I keep the mind upright from the gulfs of despair. A sufficient preservative am I to the feebled conscience. I teach him on God to lay the yoke of all his care. Constancy causeth him to truth to repair, so that whoso hath us to much ease shall find, for we are perfect props to the disquieted mind.
I, patience, expulse tears lachrymable, and add to the sorrowful comfortable relief.
And I, Constancy, to the tristful and profitable, I teach them amidst their trouble to forget grief.
To these two present myself I injugate.
With patience, I, Constancy, am always confederate, and there with them like case I will reside.
Father, be joyful, let your sorrows slide. Behold these virtues which God hath us sent, to embrace patience with me, good Father, be diligent. This is a medicine for us, very comfortable.
Dear daughter, to your sayings I am agreeable. Welcome patience, a necessary instrument, to them that in conscience do suffer torment.
Lay hold on constancy, which from despair will us shield.
To do as you do, in all things I yield.
So now, if you please, let us depart.
I grant to go hence with all my heart.
I, patience, on you will attend.
In storms tribulous, constancy shall you defend.
And they exit. We're going to run straight into the next scene. We say they exit. I suspect that Grissell remains on stage, but I could be wrong. Diligence enters and says thusly.
From my lord Marquis even now I am sent, who even now is journeyed to Boulogne-le-Grasse, to fetch home his new spouse, a lady excellent, as beautiful as ever the Greekish Helen was, whom Paris the Troyan hath won in fight, and brought to Priam's court by puissant might. But at this season, according to my lord's commandment, which with humility I will bring to perfection, as it becometh every servant to be diligent, so as I am charged, I will give Grissell here of intellection. Hark! Methinks I hear her voice. Delectable. Surely to virtue this lady was tractable. How? God be here. Who resteth in this place?
My poor father and I, this is a plain case.
Go once or twice about the stage, let Grissell sing some song, and sit spinning. So this is a song for Grissell when the messenger cometh to her.
How greatly am I bound to praise my God that sits in throne, which hath assuaged by providence my anguish and my moan. These virtues which with me reside, all griefs have banished quite, patience to ease my heaviness and pensive plaint plight. Eke constancy from all annoy doth Grissell daily shield, so that I will be joyful still, and praise to God I yield, which in this grievous doleful for such mercy doth extend, as from the gulfs of fond despair his creatures doth defend. The surging sea so troublous, which tossed me to and fro, whose watery waves had sunk me nigh in floods of deadly woe, allayed are, and I set free from peril and from pain. The Lord above of his mere love no doubt hath made me fain.
God save thee, Grissell, and shield thee from care. My lord Marquis doth him to thee commend, desiring thee home to his place to repair, for to wed a new lady he doth purpose and intend. But the rule of his house is assigned only to thee. All the officers of his house shall to thee obedient be. But above all things thou must make provision that his new spouse may be lodged after the best wise. The order of all things must be assigned to thy direction. All things shall be done as you do devise.
With all my heart I will lay my rock aside to please his honour in all that I can.
Then in this place let us no longer abide, for I purpose to be your waiting man.
And they exit. So we've had a return of Grissell home, reunited with her father. Sapphire and Steel are assigned to watch over them. Obviously, because you wouldn't want to send any transuranic elements in for a job like this. And then Diligence comes in and says, "Hi, your husband wants you to be there for the wedding, and we've got your job looking after us, looking after the household." So yeah, lots going on there. Thoughts about where you think this is going, for those who don't know the plot in advance. If you do know the plot in advance, say nothing. But for those who are, this is a roller coaster ride of, as someone has put in the chat somewhere, this guy. So thoughts from the room about any of the much material that we've had. Lynsey.
Please tell me Grisel goes back to the Marquis and castrates him.
Yes, that is what happens.
Patient Grissell to the revenge. This time it's impatient.
Yes. She's patient, but for murder. Helen.
Actually, this part I know. I have a good feeling for. When you are denied a promotion or deposed from a job that you have, and then are expected to look after the person who takes it on. That has happened to me. And there is no... it's an appalling feeling that you're having to baby this person who has got the job that is rightfully yours.
Mm.
And you're going to have to teach them how to do it.
Mm. Yes. Diligence has all the great jobs, really. Diligence is one hell of an enabler of the Marquis. It has to be said. And I've not noticed Diligence putting up much of a fight for any of these jobs that he's been handed. But yeah, I liked Greg. I think it was Greg in the chat was saying about constancy and patience and etc. Feeling suddenly like they were left over from a civic pageant. They really did have that sort of flow to it of which also is the same sort of thing derives from this kind of drama as well. So they are cousins in terms of the way they're written. So I think that's a really nice point. Any other thoughts? Eric?
Just about the song, because I mean, we've talked about like the musical part of this without actually having the music, but like, it feels like because of the rhythm, it doesn't really flow as a song, but it feels like maybe it flows because of the movement of spinning. I don't know how that works exactly, but like that, you know, like certain jobs go with certain movements and stuff, like I don't know, washing clothing or whatever. So maybe that's kind of how it works. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yes, and you know it's bound to praise God that sits on throne. So as it was mentioned, I think the other day by Helen, and has been mentioned in the chat again today, the sort of parallel with Job is very, very strong. Other thoughts before we go on? We have two more scenes that I might just run together.
I've lost my place.
Scene 16 we're going from, as labelled. Alexandra just sort of hid her eyes for a second. It's like when I said we're going to go on, and we went, no more, no more. What fresh hell is this? Right. Okay. We will go into scene 16. Helen has inferred a opening stage direction of enter a lot of people. So many people enter. We've got the Marquis, we've got a daughter, we've got a Countess, presumably a Pango. We've got the brother, the son/brother, depending on how you want to. It's labelled in the text. And later on, Grissell will be entering at some point, but I won't read that stage direction. You can just assume that at some point Grissell will enter as well. So it's a room full of people.
Come on, my lady dear, my spouse and loving mate, the gods be blessed, which unto me have given such lucky fate, as to enjoy so fair a wife, whose feature doth excel the golden nymphs and muses 9, which on Parnasso dwell. These arms thy corpse embrace, on thee my joy depends, to pleasure thee, my lady dear, thy husband's mind attends.
And eke to thee as duty binds, love's fruits I will impart. Thou only, my beloved mate, enjoy'st thy servant's heart. The fruits of friendly love to thee shall still be shown. My heart is thine, receive the same, and take it as thine own.
Possess thou mine while death divide, and shred my file in twain. As long as life abides in corpse, thine own I will remain. Rejoice, ye nobles all, dear sister, joyful be, for now my joys increased are, my nuptials you shall see.
O brother mine, gods give you joy and lengthen long your lives. Be present, Hymenaeus, thou, the vanquisher of strives. Subdue the furies fell, whose visage is ugly black. Prognosticate that joyful joys that shall come to ruinous wrack.
Men. Amen. And Jove that rules the earth and heaven above, the planets 7 and everything that orderly doth move, send such increase of friendliness that discord's fruits may cease, and faithful love betwixt you twain may more and more increase.
I thank you both for your good wills. Now let us haste away in pompous wise to solemnize our happy spousal day.
Now that I have set all things in a readiness for the coming of my lord, I purpose to attend, whose honour I will receive with willingness, and the fruits of goodwill to him still ostend. Patience is the buckler wherewith I contend, and constancy in combat it stayeth me upright. These so arm me that I cannot be vanquished in fight. Lo, beyond yonder they begin in presence to appear. Certes his spouse is wonderful amorous, with him like ease cometh a young man wonderful fair. I will salute them with loquy courteous. God save you, my lord, and send you his peace. Welcome, fair lady, God send the prosperity. God bless thee, O my lord, with wisdom's increase. God preserve you all right worthily nobility. God grant you to spend your time in tranquility. God stream on thy famous assembly the spirit of grace, and grant you long on earth to run your race.
We thank thee, Grisel, for thy courteous salutation, and re-greet thee again with like gratulation. But tell one thing that I shall of thee require. Show frankly thy mind, I do thee humbly desire. How sayest thou, is not my spouse beautiful and fair? Bash not, I pray thee, but boldly thy fancy declare.
My lord, touching your inquisition, gladly ye shall hear poor Grisel's definition. Her comely shape nature hath framed aright, each lively limb appears full shining in my sight. Her visage white with redness mixed, I deem, would move every creature her beauty to esteem. And to conclude in my simple judgment, there cannot be in the world a fairer, this is evident. But hark, my lord, what I say to thee again, take heed thou prick her not with the needles of disdain, as thou hast done the other, for she hath been brought up daintily, and peradventure cannot take the matter so patiently.
O Grisel, thy virtues I must commend. Even thou only deservest perpetual praise. What tongue sufficiently can thy lord ostend? I have not seen thy like in all my days. For faithful love thou doest far exceed Dido, Penelope, or any such indeed. Thou only art my spouse and beloved mate. Thee only I fancy, all other spousals I hate. And this virgin which thou deemest my spouse shall be, is thy daughter and mine. This is the verity. And this young man which thou seest in sight is thy son and mine, my love and lady bright. They were not slain, but nourished tenderly with my sister, the Countess of Pango, verily. Therefore be joyful, set sorrows aside. Thou art my love, my lady and bride. And this which I have done, I promise thee, was done for this cause, thy patience to try.
My children, O most fortunate day, blessed be God that kept you from decay. I thought the sword had ended your race, but now I praise God I view your comely face.
And she's fallen down.
Oh, my sweet mother, did thou suffer such pain for me, thy child? Great is thy patience. God grant I may kindly reward thee again with the perfect fruits of childly obedience.
Ah, dear mother, in whose womb I was nourished, and therein by divine essence 40 weeks cherished, hast thou suffered for me such anguish in tribulation? God grant I may requite thee with condign veneration.
O sisters, great cause have you joyful to be.
It delighteth me much, my children, to see my joys so far exceed and must and be innumerable, that no white living to show them is able. I cannot utter my mind, tears so abound. Wherefore at this instant let us depart this place.
We are glad that Grissel such favour have found.
Truly, these tidings the commons will solace.
Come on, nobility, let us hence wend.
On your honour, willingly, we will attend.
And they exit, and this might be the end of a scene, or it may have lied. But I think we'll just pause there. Let's just pause there. This minor plot point. So, who wants to go first? I don't even want to start. I've got things, but I think the room might be quite active here and not need me to waffle on for a bit to get their sea legs going. Rachael, would you like to say something?
Yeah, just what a scene. Here I am pretending to marry our daughter who you thought I had murdered, and also that son you thought I had murdered. He's also here. I'm the Marquis and I'm crazy. I'm just, not crazy abusive, crazy emotionally abusive.
Yeah, other thoughts before I leap in with my thoughts. Yeah, it doesn't have to be too printable. Just not actively libelous.
You can't libel the dead.
Yeah,
unless they're royalty.
Or for that matter, the fictitious people.
But let's try anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason this feels so very unsatisfactory, at least to me, is because there isn't enough of a justification. There is a, oh, look, everything is fine, and this was just a trial of your patience. Moving on. And it just feels very like we're robbed of a cathartic moment there.
What, when she pulls
she's
out the
she's
knife
clearly
and
having one, but we the audience, sorry.
yeah, with the moment when she pulls out the knife and just guts him. That is the reaction. That the chat was basically a long line of people just kill him now. He dies for this. He dies. The general reaction for the room is not going with the Marquis here. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that was it. Thank you.
You see, that isn't for me the worst thing about this situation. The worst thing about this situation is at the beginning of the scene, the Marquis seems clearly to have actually wooed his own daughter. The daughter seems actively to think of him as his love.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's something really weird about that on top of all the rest of it. The rest of it I can go, this is a story, this is a thing, that it's not good, but I can understand why it's happening. Why is that happening? Liza.
I think the question is open as to whether the children are in on it. I mean, do they know this is a sham, or has the daughter actually been told that this is her engagement?
It doesn't seem from the dialogue that she does think that this is a pretense.
The other thing I'm noticing is there are a lot of characters on stage. There are probably doubling reasons why Politic isn't here, but Politic is missing, and what's missing is the Marquis putting his hand on Politic's shoulder and going, "It was this guy. This guy told me it would be a really good idea to psychologically torture you for 11 years."
It was Bob. I went into the Black Lodge and...
I don't think it's necessarily only 12 years. It's 12 years from the moment she marries to when she gets back to her father, because the coat has been saved for 12 years. But we don't know how long she was with the father before she was summoned back to the court. So, I mean, we may be talking about 14. I mean, it's still appalling, but nevertheless, it isn't necessarily prepubescent.
Well, thank goodness for that. Eric.
When we started this session, there was a bit where I actually wrote down, like, because I sometimes take notes. I wrote down Medea ? Question mark? Because like this is a reverse Medea, basically. Is like because she kind of kills off her kids and tries to murder her competitor. So it's yeah, and sorry, Alexandra's looking shocked, and I'm a bit distracted now. And a bull. There's it's just kind of like, I don't know, it just feels like that's the kind of reaction we want, although we don't really want that at the same time.
I'm sorry, I was a bit distracted because I was wondering what the opinions of the cat community were, but sadly
I know,
we seem to have lost our cat representative, so we can't ask at this time. We have still got a couple of scenes to go, potentially, so very briefly before we read on. Rachael.
I don't know if the children are in on it, because the Countess's reaction, seemed like ruinous wrack, and she starts saying, she was saying some things at the beginning, that just make it seem like she's kind of shocked to, like, what are you doing?
Brother mine, gods give you joy and lengthen long your lives. Seems like, and she has no excuse because she knows, she has been told where the babies came from in the first place. I mean, so maybe the whole thing is just a front. Maybe Grisel is there from the very beginning of the scene. If Grisel's there from the very beginning of the scene, then at least it's just horrible, as opposed to just disturbed. Anyway, I think we do need to move on. We've Eric, very briefly.
Yeah, I just remembered when Politic disappeared that you mentioned one time that often they kill off the clown to sort of advance the plot. I don't know if that's what's happening here, or if Politic was played by the person who played Rumour as well. So yeah.
Well, they very rarely kill the clown. We've only got 2 plays where we think they might actually literally kill the clown. But there is the late onset disappearing clown disorder, whereby the clown will disappear for the last act or so, and it's sometimes a bit of a balance problem. Balance problems appearing on other screens as well. So we move focus to Janikell now, to whom the Marquis will encounter, along with reason, sobriety. Whether this is a separate scene or a continuation of the previous scene, let's find out.
Much musing in mind, where my Grisel is thus long, my wavering mind is tossed with thoughts to and fro. I pray God this Marquis have done her no wrong, nor sought means further to trouble me with grief and woe. For then shall old Janikell his life soon forego. Her damage is mine, her harm as mine I take, till such time as I see her, my sorrows cannot slake. Good luck I trust, for this Marquis entereth this place. I will haste to him with all festination, and rest me behind him a little space. Peradventure I shall hear news by his communication.
What say you, my lords? Doth not Grisel excel?
All spouse dame, she beareth the bell. I have not seen her like since the time of my creation. Worthily deserveth she praise and laudation.
Grisel, your spouse doth merit commendation. Her fame is blown through every nation. All creatures living may speak of her praise. I never knew her like in all my life days.
Then this one thing I pray you tell me. Is it not convenient that after me her children reign, and enjoy over Salutia rule and dignity? Herein I desire you show your judgments plain.
Right honourable lord, avoiding dangers and doubts scrupulous, I frankly and freely make protestation that her condition, being as they be most virtuous, shall cause her children to be had in estimation. And God willing, as our superiors, they shall rule this nation. For sif they be the fruits which from your loins did proceed, of force they shall possess your inheritance indeed.
And I plight my faith thereto for performance of the same, else God confound me with confusion and shame.
I give you most humble thanks for your goodwill, in that ye are bent to mine, after me allegiance to fulfill. Come on, I beseech ye, and walk with me a little way.
We are ready pressed,
and your honour to obey.
These comfortable tidings comfort my aged heart. Be merry now, Janikell, let all sorrows depart. Blessed be God, the giver of all consolation, which hath stirred this Marquis on Grisel to take compassion.
God speed, good father, how is it with thee? Think not, but thou art highly beloved of me. Oh, thy courtesy in my sight hath found grace, not as a stranger, but as my father, I thee embrace. Put off these garments for the most unfit, for thee most unfit, for thou shalt be honoured throughout this city. Clothe thyself with these ornaments without longer delay. Help my nobility, my father, to array. Shall not I love thee and yield thee veneration, which to my spoused mate extendest compassion? To harbour her in need you doubtless were diligent. Therefore to prefer thee to honour I judge it convenient, wherein my roof thou shalt be placed. Let joys abound and sorrows be defaced.
O honourable lord, Jove reward this kindness, which to me, poor Janikell, you presently ostend. God increase thee with wisdom, I beseech this goodness, and from all dangers thy person defend, which the fullness of friendship dost friendly extend. To me, crooked wight, and my daughter thy wife, I being half dead, you have revived my life.
O Father, repeat not my unkindness, I pray thee, which afflicted thy child with the scourge of adversity. But learn now in thine old days joyful to be, and possess with us God's gift prosperity. Come on to our mansion, let us all together repair.
To wait on your honour, we diligent are.
Said everybody. They exit. Final scene. Let's rattle to the end. We have essentially the family unit of Grisel, Countess of Pango, daughter and son. At some point, Marquis and Janikell will join them.
Come on, my dear sister, whose kindness to recompense poor Grisel is unable, which kept from inconvenience. My children, fostering them as thine own, God grant my goodwill to thee may be shown.
Sister, that which I did proceeded from my heart. It sufficeth me that thanks to me you do impart.
Else might I be counted of all creatures most unkind. Verily your kindness shall never out of my mind. O my children, your mother's heart is made fain, whereas with Cleopatra I had cause to complain. Now reject I sorrow, and mourning cheer, and constrained am I to joy to see you living here.
O my beloved mother, great was the tribulation which your motherly heart for us did endure.
But now our presence 10 times more consolation to you I hope shall daily procure.
Truth, but yet one thing doubtless increaseth my sorrow, and will force me to shed tears even in morrow. O my dear father, thy absence I bewail. To see thee suffer indigent grief doth my heart assail. Would God within our roof thou mightest thy place enjoy, then doubtless were eased my grief and annoy. Let me see, O heart, thy dolours abrogate. Let joy bound thy former solace revocate.
And the
Behold.
appearance of her husband and father somewhere around here.
Behold thy husband and thy father's aged face, who both together friendly do enter this place. His rags are changed to silks, I perfectly see. Now know I assuredly my lord doth favour me.
Come on, good father, rejoice and be merry. With pensive state I judge you be weary. Behold thy daughter, my lady and wife, with whom, God willing, I will end this life. Behold my 2 children, revive thyself again. Embrace gladness, oblight thy former pain.
God be blessed, which from so great adversity hath elevated us to great prosperity. Ah, sweet children, God bless you, and send you his grace. My heart doth leap to behold your face. Now have I seen that which I longed to see desired have. Now doth my hoary head covet the grave. Now doth death delay time and spare his dart, and will not sonder old Janikell's heart.
Good father, covet not death, your race is not run, the destinies more longer your thread have spun.
Grandfather, praise God and wish not your death.
Nay, rather desire him to lengthen your breath.
Come on now, let us to our place with joyfulness.
We all
We
will
all will
attend
attend on you with
with
willingness.
willingness.
And now they all exit, leaving the last speaker.
Here to conclude, right gentle audience, at this season, we purpose and intend beseeching you all with us to have patience, for loath would we be the simplest here to offend. In our author's behalf, to you we did commend this history, wherein we have been bold to show what virtues in Grisel that lady did flow, although rude our doings and author's metre be. Yet seem not us nor him to deface. We submit ourselves unto your judgments, and thus we knit up with support of your grace, desiring your prayers with us in this case, in which our noble Queen Elizabeth to you we commend, whom God in the bowels of his mercy do defend. Bless her, O Father, and grant her Nestor's days. Shield her with the wings of his mercy and grace, that as she hath begun to set forward thy praise, so strengthen her, Lord, to advance thine honour in every place. Her foes and enemies utterly deface, whether they be foreign or civil. Let their confusion be seen. Lord, bless thou our land, and preserve our royal queen. The lords of the council, Lord, govern aright, that they may be mindful of the common weal. Shadow and defend them with thy glorious sprite, that unto thy truth they may bear love and zeal. Unto them, O God, the sprite of knowledge reveal, that sin may be extirped and rooted out quite, and we unto truth and virtue fix our delight.
And the play ends. Everyone pulls out their swords, and there is a brutal bloodbath as the entire family goes in and takes out the Marquis and, frankly, the Countess, because I consider the Countess to be just as culpable in this, and also Diligence. Diligence so slowly as one of the prime enablers of this this particular. But Daddy gets some new clothes, so that's fine. He gets
14 years later.
Yeah, but he's not dead yet. So some clothes and a roof over his head. It's good. I love the way the daughter and son go. Oh, you great. We're great was the tribulation you did for us at Endure, for no reason. I just kept running in my head for no really good reason. Liza.
The nerve of this epilogue, the goddamn nerve. Like, first of all, within the first 4 lines, asking the audience to have patience with the author who just wrote this wet cement of a play that, seriously, the first half, basically up through the end of the betrothal scene, when the characters just stop randomly and deliver a sermon, and then they're like, well, back to our story.
The infomercial. The infomercial was classic. Yes.
So the audience has to have the patience of a Griselda. This play won't murder your children, but they might die of starvation before you get back home.
But there were 2 servants who hit each other a lot, so there was that.
Thank God for the fighty servants, but secondly, this playwright needs to get Queen Elizabeth's name out of their goddamn mouth, because can you imagine being like, oh, God save Elizabeth, our lovely queen, having just done this play of how the pattern of virtue for a woman is absolute submission to a husband, even if he's completely misguided, and that a woman should really shut up and let men rule badly rather than govern, rather than do her own thing. I don't know if I can see Elizabeth enjoying this play. Perhaps she had the playwright beheaded. We can only hope.
No, you've got to remember this is all coming about around the same year when everybody who's producing a play for the Queen is telling her who she should marry. Because they're sponsored by various nobles, etc.
Marry some dissolute guy who's going to kill your children because his servant told him to.
Yeah, but there is a running theme here, and the people are constantly. So Elizabeth's got a lot of this in her early life of as queen, doing this kind of thing.
How many plays did this playwright write?
This is the play that we have.
Ooh, I wonder why.
I'm getting the impression that there is some consumer resistance to this particular text. And yet I see so many smiling faces. Lynsey.
Yes, I was sort of, the first point I wanted to make was that we may be led to expect from other plays at around about the time that this one emerged, or possibly a little bit later, where there would be a central character whose ear was poisoned by his servant, and who therefore wreaked terrible things upon his beloved wife. And in other plays, there would have eventually been an unmasking of all of this, and the evil servant would have received their comeuppance, and there would have been a tragic denouement and subsequent catharsis. So obviously we don't have that here. We lose the vice completely. He just disappears. There's no sort of, it's really tough. But when Liza was speaking, it did make me think, maybe, we were talking yesterday about maybe the way to do this is to have a second play running concurrently with a sort of modern, commentary on it. But maybe the idea is to actually have the play within the play. So the play is that Elizabeth is watching this and having her own thoughts and feelings about what goes on in it. That could be another way of offsetting in a fully contemporary way, these kinds of attitudes and the shift in all that, which was hopefully soon to come.
Well, yeah, and I want to just briefly, before I go to Eric and then Rachael and then Helen, just from stuff going in the chat, Liza was saying, we're in solidarity in deciding to murder the Marquis. I feel that needs to be part of the event. Is that can we provoke an audience response of literally just to go them just sitting there, die. I do feel that's a very legitimate part of actually the way we've read it now, is just going no, just rebelling totally against what we're watching. And there might be something in that, not possibly quite so murdery, at least trying to incite other people to be murdery. We can be murdery in sport, that's fine. Rachael, then Eric, then Helen.
No, I can't believe, in ancient Rome that they would murder Caesar, but nobody would murder him. Nobody would murder this Marquis in this play. Oh my gosh, this is such a I'm talking about Julius Caesar from Cleopatra that we watched. I mean, not that we watched, that we read like last week. Oh my gosh, just I'm like red faced right now and apoplectic. This is. And what Liza was saying about Queen Elizabeth, I hope the whole court gossiped about this man right after, like, he put on this play, just ran him out of court. This is insane. I mean, it's just next level. It's next level.
Eric.
I was just gonna say that I really want to see a version where you've got like this play going on, and then like sort of Lynsey's idea about having the concurrent play, and where someone steps out of the other play and goes, "What are you thinking, girl? Get out of here!" or like murder him or whatever our thoughts. Sort of like a chorus lead, sort of would do to. Yeah, what's called like sort of stepping out of I don't know, an ancient tragedy or comedy to sort of go we kind of, this is not what people want, like sort of to be the voice of the audience kind of thing.
Helen.
Yeah, I got 3 points, and I'll try and keep them as quick as possible. One, this is not an original story. This story is around a lot. I think it's in Chaucer. It appears in a lot of other places. So we can't credit this guy with having invented this. I mean, I'm not saying that that's necessarily in his favor, but never mind. The second is Queen Elizabeth. In the first 6 years of her reign, she was regarded by everybody, foreign monarchs, her subjects, her courtiers, her politicians, as the mother of the next Protestant king. Nothing else, really. They didn't know what they've got. They really didn't understand her. And everything that everybody did was all about the next Protestant king, not about her, certainly in the first 6 years. And the third thing is that towards the end, especially when the Marquis was asking permission for the children of the marriage to be his heirs, it occurred to me that because she wasn't noble, that this was some form of morganatic marriage and not a dynastic marriage. Not that I think that should make any difference at all to our righteous indignation and wrath, but nevertheless, it's a point.
Yeah, following on from your first point about, that this is coming from other sources, from Decameron, etc.
Oh, Decameron, right.
We've got. It's another example of the difficulty that comes from trying to adapt a story, because often stories have their own very odd logic, or in theory there's a moral. Lots of things happen because the story says they happen, and that's sort of fine when you're telling a story. But when you try to actually present it with, and now this thing has to happen, and now we have these people come on, and then this happens, and you end up on stage with something very strange. Elements of this play feel like that, of the strangeness of going. The story hasn't actually given anyone reasons to do a lot of what they're doing, so they're just doing it, and that makes it all the more weird especially when the story is pretty abhorrent to start with. For going, why is any of these people, apart from you've thrown in politic persuasion as basically just an excuse for terrible things to happen. That there is no narrative reason. There's no actual reason given for any of these things to happen apart from because this person said so. And it becomes a real problem with delivering any kind of story which doesn't have that when you're trying to dramatize it. I say this is an extreme example because the story itself is trying to put forward an idea that we thoroughly reject. We need to go into final thoughts around the room, so do keep it brief if you've spoken for a lot, but unless you've got lots and lots of thoughts, you feel free to expound to your heart's content if you suddenly have this burst of thoughts, but also keep it short if you don't. That is entirely allowed. Greg, do you have any final thoughts?
This is one of the few plays I'm really quite glad I wasn't here for the first two parts. Post the nurse, I felt a bit like all my characters were very stock, but I did enjoy, and I'm sorry, guilty pleasure of singing the lullaby. But yeah, loved the Coventry Cathedral, loved the Coventry Cathedral, loved the Coventry Carol connotations from that, and that gorgeous speech to the baby was just joyous. Anyway, that's all.
Yes, and actually that's another thing to talk about in final thoughts is, just because the play overall is something that is very difficult to work with, that doesn't mean there aren't bits of it that we can't steal. Elements of politic persuasion we've already identified as being very good. It's lovely to remind us of that song and that moment from the nurse. That moment is lovely and very removable. And the comedy servants hitting each other. It's always good to have more physical violence. There's not enough of it. And I'm also still just greatly tickled with the whole concept of the Countess of Pango. Alex, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. The last couple of plays I've done with you was the Arthur one, the King Arthur one, and the Cleopatra one, who obviously were more or less real people. And obviously Patient Grissell probably wasn't. But it's interesting that she's never become, even though she turns up in a lot of things from the Decameron to Carol Churchill, she's never become a cultural touchstone in the way that Cleopatra or Arthur or even Snow White have. And it's interesting because she's so bloody passive. It's not a virtue that we extol. It's not something that makes for engaging drama, I don't think. And I think that's part of the problem for a modern audience, with it. The titillation element is also really unpleasant. The kind of like, oh, you're so naked, you're the real male gaze. And the thing that really annoyed me in that final scene more than anything else is that the line about, oh, it's fine, they've been brought up by the Countess of Pango, which has missed their whole childhood. If we're saying it could be 14, 15, 16 years, you've deprived a mother of her children's lives, which is another thing to add to the stack. I try desperately to think of what I would do with these if I had to stage them and try and find a cultural frame that makes sense to me. And really the only thing I could think of for this was to do something kabuki-esque with it. There's a quote about geisha culture, to be strong on the inside and not let it show, and really stylize the hell out of it. So it's something very othered. And these characters like Patience and Constancy become these sort of weird abstract god powers sort of pulling the story around. That was all I could really think to do with it, but I have to say it's not one of my favorites. Sorry.
It's not winning the hearts and minds of the assembled viewers. It has to be said. Eric, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have several. Perhaps too many. Yeah, I was trying to think of like what you could do with it, like as Alex said, like what you could do with it in a modern context, and the only thing I came up with was to treat it in the same way Angela Carter treated like the fairy tales in The Bloody Chamber. And other stories, where she kind of basically turned it into a feminist, like she took the original fairy tales and put a feminist spin on them. So, for example, Bluebeard, the new bride who is the victim, basically ends up escaping with her life and her mother because of her mother's help, because of female solidarity. So I don't know whether you could rewrite it that way.
Yes. Helen, final thoughts?
No, you've had mine.
Excellent. Liza, final thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what merit this play has in itself as a text, but all the same, I find myself quite glad we read it, and thank you to Helen for this text and for the edit, which let us read it, because it seems to me such a touchstone for other plays, and that there are other people who seem to be referencing tropes that occur specifically in this play, and it seems like a nexus of that sort, that there are this play spawns a number of tropes into other plays. So in an intertextual way, I'm very glad we read it.
Excellent. Rachael, final thoughts?
No, just this. I feel like at the end of this, there's this weird sort of grin and bear it type thing towards women, because this man is just so abusive, and it's like, if you are patient enough, maybe he'll stop and he'll give you back the children that he said he killed. Also, I even though she only has like 4 lines, I did love that midwife. And I said I was neutral on this play yesterday to be polite, but I really don't dig this play.
It's all right. And you didn't have to be neutral the other day. You could have just gone in. I know I try to be positive about these things, but yeah, there are limits. There really are.
Yeah. Politic in the first 2 days, I didn't like what he was saying, but he was a charismatic character. But today I was just done. But I feel like if anybody ever wrote a sequel to this just about the midwife, I would totally watch it or read it.
And I love the fact the midwife, who only has about 8 lines, has had, we did that scene twice because we quite liked it the first time around, and it led us into things. But there are these weird. Every so often there are moments when this text does slightly come alive, and Politic does seem to be from a slightly different play, or maybe is in fact written by with somebody else or something. And there's these little moments, and then you just hit the Marquis, and it's just. Lynsey, final thoughts?
I think my thoughts on this play are probably clear to everyone in the room and watching. But I do agree with, Liza's point, and other people have said a similar thing, the intertextuality of it. And, maybe there's a way of taking parts of it and or using certain characters like the midwife to disrupt what's going on, because it's clear from the midwife that she doesn't take any crap from anybody. And so it's just maybe there's a way of working bits of this into something else, or doing some kind of parallel thing. But honestly, there's so much good stuff that has been read and all that it would be fairly low on my list for a second look.
Yes, I'm definitely putting this in the educational section of our material. Alexandra, final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's in its own context. It must have meant a great deal and had value. In the idea that all humans are human and some of them have wombs it's one that we kind of resonate with nowadays, but at the time women would have not been the same kind of human as their husbands, etc. I think if we take the fact that it posits an idea that we disagree with, so you put this before a modern audience, I think the way to do it is to really push in that direction and make us, the audience, very vehemently have our blood boiling and not want it to go the way it does, so that what we learn is the injustice of that situation. What we come out of it with is just how unjust that is. So I'd say, if you are going to do it, play it straight and really frustrate us. But I think what makes it so unpleasant for us, or for me, reading, is that the characterization is flat. It's unchanging. Nobody learns from and evolves as a result of their circumstances, which we want in modern drama. So I think if it were played in a way in which we see that both Grisel and the Marquis are fighting against the thing that they eventually end up doing. So she doesn't want to be patient all the time, but she eventually kind of pushes herself into patience. He doesn't want to be as abusive as he is. He gets persuaded, so he's dithering. We get this idea that he is in his text. Not dithering, sorry, that he's really having an internal conflict of conscience. That might be the only way it might be made more interesting or more stomachable. That's my thought.
I think everyone should get given voting paddles before the show starts, and the audience gets to decide when the Marquis gets killed, and that the cast is on a knife edge throughout, waiting for the light to start flashing to say that they're allowed to take him down. And the play ends as quickly as it does. Very briefly, Eric, because I've got to close the session.
Actually, there is one company that I can think of that could probably pull this off and actually really make the audience really, really pissed off. Theater company, and unfortunately it's not Beyond Shakespeare. It's Forced Entertainment. Who are very sort of audience annoying, driven kind of. They're really. I've seen them in action, and they're very sort of. I don't know. Just indescribable. Yeah.
So, if you're looking for a play that's going to annoy your audience, come to Patient Grissell. That will do the job for you. Well, that's it for this first look exploring session. It might be a very, very, very long time before we come back to this play. But that doesn't mean we may not steal the bits that we did quite like and use them somewhere else. All that remains is to thank everybody for their wonderful reading, for their patience. My God, so much patience. Thank you very much, and farewell. Whoop hoida now, St. Gillian bless ye.